Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, wherever in the world it is that you are. Welcome once more to another live stream of Alexandra Mayer's Live. And this is my page by page reading and commentary of the modern English version of the Bible. I'd like to thank anyone and everyone out there who's chosen to join me tonight live, or if you're listening to this as a pre recorded video. Tonight, we will continue with chapters 10 and 11 of Genesis. We're in the book of Genesis right now. So we will be going over the Table of Nations along with the Tower of Babel. And I do want to point many of you over to my community tab on this channel, Alexandra Mayers, because I did post a link to an audiobook version of the book of Enoch. After we complete Genesis, I'm going to do, I guess, what you would call an audio listening party or listening session of the book of Enoch. And it's going to be long. It might take all day to do because it's like a 4 hour long recording. But I feel like it's imperative to go over the book of Enoch because Enoch is mentioned in the Bible as one of Adam's descendants. And also, straight out the gate, when it comes to the book of Enoch, it elaborates on Genesis chapter 6 when it goes into the intermingling of the angels and the daughters of man. It also goes into the number of daughters that were present on earth. Because a lot of times people, they listen to the Bible and they only hear the sons of Adam mentioned. So, it seems like the earth would have been very sparse when it came to people. But in actuality, there were quite a few people. And I personally feel that the population was out of balance when it came to males versus females. I believe that there were likely far more females than there were males, which may have been in part why the females so readily gravitated towards the angels opposed to their peers, humans. So, anyway, that's something that we'll talk about when we reach the end of the book of Genesis. So let's go ahead and get started on the Table of Nations, Genesis 10. Now, these are the generations of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and sons were born to them after the flood. The Japhethites. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Rephath, and Togarmah. The sons of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, the Kittites, and the Rodanites. From these, the coastlands of the nations were divided into their lands, everyone according to his tongue, according to their families, by their nations. And just to reiterate, the Bible mentions the sons for the most part. It seems to omit the daughters. I feel that in the original versions of the Bible, the daughters may have been mentioned, at least in part. But I feel that in later versions, they may have been omitted because of there having been so many, or possibly due to the misogyny of the times of when the Bible was written, translated, and whatnot. All right, let's continue. The Hamites. The sons of Ham were Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush were Seba, Hevelah, Sapta, Ramah, and Sabteka. And the sons of Ramah were Sheba and Dedan. So we're getting quite the extensive family tree here. Cush was the father of Nimrod. He became a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, even like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Uruk, Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria and built Nineveh, the city Rabath and Kala, Rabath and Kala, and Rezin between Nineveh and Kala. That is the principal city. Egypt was the father of the Ludites, Anamites, Lahebites, Naphatuhites, Pathrusites, Kasulites, from whom came the Philistines, and the Caphartes. Canaan was the father of Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivitites, or Hivites, Archetes, Sinites, Arvites, I didn't say that right, Arvidites, Zemarites, and Hamathetes. Later, the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. The border of the Canaanites was from Sidon toward Gerar to Giza, and then to Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, as far as Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, according to their families, according to their languages, in their lands and in their nations. The Semites. To Shem, who is the father of all the children of Eber, whose older brother was Japheth, were sons born also. The sons of Shem were Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. The sons of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Meshech. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah, and Shelah was the father of Eber. To Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided. His brother's name was Joktan. Joktan was the father of Almodad, Shalef, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadaram, Uzal, Diklah, Obal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Their dwelling place was from Mesha all the way to Sephar, the hill country of the east. These are the sons of Shem, by their families and their language, in their lands and their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, according to their generations and their nations. From these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So if I can find a graphical representation of all these people along with the map, I will link it in the description of this particular live stream, because I'm sure I've seen one online before. I just got to remember where I saw it or Google and try to find it again. But it's good to have a visual representation of who's who. Another point that I wanted to bring up, and it's just something to think about, it is stated that Noah brought his sons and his sons' wives onto the ark, right? But again, let's get into the fact that it seems that the Bible fixates on the sons of fathers opposed to the daughters. So the question would be, how many of Noah's other children, which may have been daughters, drowned in the flood with their husbands? Something to think about. And that particular situation, when you really think about it, may have been what drove Noah later to become a drunk. It was just a thought I had while doing some cardio today. I could be completely off base, but it's a thought. So, anyway, let's go into Genesis 11, chapter 11, the Tower of Babel. Now, the whole earth had one language and the same words. As the people journeyed from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build a city and a tower, whose top will reach to heaven, and let us make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the sons of men built. The Lord said, "The people are one, and they have one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. Now nothing they propose to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they stopped building the city. Therefore the name of it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. From there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. So that story is pretty much what explains the various languages and whatnot. So now let's go into Shem's descendants. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old. In 2 years after the flood, he became the father of Arphaxad. Shem lived after the birth of Arphaxad 500 years and had other sons and daughters. And see here, it is in the Bible. Look at that. Genesis 11 talks about having other sons and daughters. So they just never mention the daughters. Someone says, "Thank you for my service." You're welcome. Arphaxad lived 35 years and became the father of Shelah. Arphaxad lived after the birth of Shelah 403 years and had other sons and daughters. Shelah lived 30 years and became the father of Eber. Shelah lived after the birth of Eber 403 years and had other sons and daughters. This is actually one of the earliest that is written in the Bible of someone becoming a father, usually, or a father of a son at least, because it seems that the others, they were well up into like their 70s, hundreds before they finally had a son, but this one had one at 30. Eber lived 34 years and became the father of Peleg. Eber lived after the birth of Peleg 430 years and had other sons and daughters. So see, that's interesting. Something in this lineage of Shem's finally is leading the children to have sons earlier in their lives rather than later. Shem's where that happened. Okay. Peleg lived 30 years and became the father of Reu. Peleg lived after the birth of Reu 209 years and had other sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years and became the father of Serug. Then it's interesting that they keep mentioning the amount of years when they have the sons. So this must be important to whoever wrote this particular book of the Bible, Genesis 11, because since Adam, it was taking the humans, at least 100 years to finally produce a son. This particular generation of Shem is when it seems that they were finally able to do it early in their lives. So maybe that would have led to people finally having sons earlier, and that would increase the male population on Earth. Because remember, what led to the flood to begin with was all the intermingling of the daughters of man with the angels, and that's what God felt was corrupting the planet. So there needed to be more males, most likely, in order to prevent that. Because even after the flood, it's likely that the angels were still coming down, because that's why it says in the Bible, Genesis 6, the sons of God found the daughters of man fair, you know, and it said in those days and after. So it could still be going on today. I'm convinced it does, personally. But anyway, let's continue. All right, so Sarah lived 30 years and became the father of Nahor. Sarah lived after the birth of Nahor 200 years and had other sons and daughters. Nahor lived 29 years. Oh, so now we're getting into the 20s, and became the father of Terah. Nahor lived after the birth of Terah 119 years and had other sons and daughters. Okay, so now we have the lifespan shortening of people. Before, they were living into, up to like 900 years old. Adam was over 900 years old according to the Bible. But you also do have to think to yourself, okay, has the planet moved in regards to orbit when it comes to its distance to the sun? Is a year today the same length of time as the year was back in the days of Adam? There's no way to know. Might be exactly the same, might not be. If it is exactly the same, then the human lifespan was about 10 times longer than what it is today. And I guess it would have to be in order to finally produce all these sons, because the sons are who's noted in the Bible. But maybe once the genetics worked out to where people were finally producing male heirs earlier in the life, as we're seeing in this lineage, Shem's descendants from, they're not having to wait hundreds of years anymore to finally produce a boy. They're producing the son now in their late 20s, 30s, finally. So now they can finally, God could shorten the lifespan. This is interesting to me, because Genesis does point to why in our culture, even today, not every culture, but in many cultures, why sons are often more valued than daughters. I personally don't think sons today should be more valued than daughters. Again, I'm biased. I'm a woman. I'm a female. But I can see why in a population where daughters tremendously outnumber sons, they may be seen as more valuable. And that could be why that mindset carries over today. Um, I think anyone who subscribes to that mindset today is a very backwards fool. I think it's very hurtful to females within families, but I see how it happened, especially within religious families. So let's continue. So Nahor lived 29 years and became the father of Terah. Nahor lived after the birth of Terah 119 years and had other sons and daughters. Now Terah lived 70 years and became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Interesting. So still you had that residual gene in Terah, to where it took him a while to create a male heir. He probably had all daughters until he got to be 70 something years old. All right, Terah's descendants. These are the generations of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran became the father of Lot. Haran died before his father, Terah, in the land of his birth in Ur of the Chaldeans. Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai. Okay, so we're finally hearing about the name of a woman. And the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren. Oh, so they mentioned Sarai, but she was barren. She couldn't have any kids. We haven't heard about any other women mentioned name wise, not very often in this, not very often in Genesis, aside from Adam's descendants and Eve, Genesis 1. And Adam's descendants, I believe, is Genesis 6. Or was it 5? Might have been Genesis 5. Okay, so Sarai couldn't have any children. Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they went out together from Ur of the Chaldeans to go into the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. The days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Okay, so this is a good place to stop. When we start back up tomorrow, we'll go into Genesis 12. But yeah, Genesis 10 and 11, those are pretty interesting when it comes to naming who's who. We get kind of a cast list of who to pay attention to in the soap opera of the Bible. And I'm not trivializing the Bible by calling it a soap opera. Okay, don't think that. But it is. It is. There's a lot of drama to come. So I do appreciate those of you out there who decided to listen tonight. Make sure that you do look at the community tab on this channel, Alexandra Mayers, because I do have a link to the audiobook, the Book of Enoch. And after we get through Genesis, we're probably going to have a day-long listening party when it comes to my commentary of the Book of Enoch, because there's a lot that happened in there. And what's interesting about Enoch is that he was taken up into heaven by God when he was only in his 300s, whereas the others at that time, for the most part, lived to be around 800, 900 years old. Okay? So take care, everyone. Have a good night or a good morning or a good afternoon, wherever in the world it is that you are. And if you would like to learn more about me, just visit alexandramayers.com or alexandramayerslive.com. Good night.